Alright, we should be live for our weekly show here on the Game Wisdom channel. This is for the week of June 28th, 2020. We are officially confirmed in summer. It's been in the 80s and 90s this whole past week. But we have another day of design topics to discuss. And joining me is my co-host Sharky. How are you doing?
I'm doing good as long as I don't go outside and melt.
Mm-hmm. Well, you should be in the ocean. That should keep you cool.
Yeah.
But
can't go above water kind of thing and still be good.
But while we are still sitting inside, there's still plenty of design topics to get into. But first, as a quick update, I am still working on my roguelike book, and donations of $15 or more will get you acknowledgement in it. And I found from my hairdresser that she won't be available till at least September for cutting hair, so I either need to find a backup, or I just let this grow out for another, well, we had 3 months, or 2 months almost now. I will have, the giant fro by the end of the summer.
I think we need the Josh Fro.
Uh-huh.
We can get some emotes, the Josh Fro emote.
Yeah, because everyone comes to the Game Wisdom channel for my luxurious hair, right?
Exactly.
But in terms of news this week, the big news has kind of been more and more sexual harassment and misconduct cases being just kind of going all around the game industry, game journalism, and streaming in YouTube. So it's been a very happy week, right, for the game industry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sunshine and lollipops, right?
Exactly.
And
the summer is full of sunshine and lollipops.
And burning rays, as we learned. Well, technically I got my sunburn in October. The fall summer.
Yeah.
We now have the fall summer season. Soon, if things don't improve, I'll have the winter summer.
Yeah, that's global warming for you.
Oh, yes. But as of right now, hey, Matthew, we are officially in the Steam Summer Sale, which I completely forgot until this week. We had the whole Steam Festival and then the itch.io bundle. I only have, 5,000 games now I could be playing?
I think you got a little bit more than that.
And I actually bought games off of my wish list. It's amazing. And the wish list is still at 118 right now.
Isn't it higher than it was before?
Yeah, exactly. The wish list doesn't go down. It just keeps multiplying.
Exactly. The more you buy, the more gets added to it.
Mm-hmm. There are
I'm
games
curious what my wish list is at now.
What is it?
62. My wish list tends to stay the same. It is like eternally at a little bit over 50 kind of thing. Because I'll buy 10 games, then I'll add 10 games, or maybe I'll add 15 games, and then I'll go through and be like, oh, these 5 games I've changed my mind on wish list. So I end up, kind of hovering at that same number, no matter how many games I buy, where your number goes up the more you buy.
Yep. Well, I have to use it. It's the only way I can remember what games people tell me to check out.
Yeah.
And there's still so many. I think I've played a sum total of 7 of those 1,500 or whatever itch.io games.
Mm.
I'm really moving forward there. I'll be done by 2033 at this rate?
Well, there's something to be said about masochism in itch.io games or projects.
Oh, yes. Other than that, we had a really great week of devcasts between the Roundtable, the Lumo developer, and I honestly can't remember the third thing that I did this past week. Do you remember what was our third cast? I spoke with Lumode.
Not off the top of my
Lumode.
head.
Who was the third guest we had this week? Because I have another guest this week, so I know it's not them. It's great. It's all just blurring together. Let's see. Let's check the live streams. Oh, from Zhang Wu from Kit Fox from Lucifer
Right.
Among Us. Yeah, so we had some. Well, I can remember them. We had some really amazing design casts this past week.
Yep, when you can remember.
Mm-hmm. But we did a really good roundtable.
Oh yeah, that roundtable was really awesome, I think.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to try and streamline these live shows as well. So let us know what you think in the comments, or for those you watching. We're going to do the weird game segment early, and then kind of spend, just go all in with our design topics. So let us know how you like that kind of change in the schedule. But other than that, I guess, again, I'm not even going to talk about the games I've been playing, because we still have all the Steam Festival demos. I bought, I think, at least 8 or 9 games so far off of Steam. I guess anything notable or major you bought during the Steam sale?
Bought several things pretty major, but the thing that I'm attached to most right now, anyway, is Dicey Dungeon. That was not my biggest purchase, and it wasn't the one I was looking forward to the most. That was a scrap mechanic, that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still kind of in the intro of that, and I haven't gotten hooked yet. I haven't figured out how to build yet in that. So they need to work on their onboarding, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be rough, but I think I'm going to really like that game. I just got to do my own onboarding, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
which is definitely a mark against the game.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be pretty dang amazing once I can get past that large hurdle of self onboarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you don't really want the player to be responsible for your own onboarding. That's never a
Nope.
good sign.
Nope. I mean, they do have a little bit of onboarding, but it's like nothing with building. It's just, here, let's polka dot, these chests around here. You follow the shiny objects, get the shiny objects, and, lead you to a couple of locations. And then we tell you nothing about nothing.
Good.
We just tell you how to collect. We give you enough onboarding that you know how to, do the basics of moving around, jumping, platforming, plateforming, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing with building, or even how to build.
Yeah.
How to even get started in it. At least not that I found so far.
Yep. And we ran into that issue for me with Besiege, with that game just like being horrible in terms of trying to get you into it.
Yeah, like Besiege had a lot more problems than just onboarding, I think, because even after I learned how to play it, there is still tons and tons of issues. With just, we're not. You may know how to build stuff, but do you know how to build stuff for this one particular map? Because we're not going to tell you what's in this map. You're just going to have to play it and find out. Play it and fail and find out, oh, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to fire arrows at me and burn my ship. So I need to have defenses against fire arrows. But they don't tell you any of that,
Yep.
Oh, this one's going to have, some bombs in it that you're going to have to, maneuver, so you're going to need a really skinny or really maneuverable thing. But they don't tell you about that. You just have to go in with whatever you have, fail at it, and then say, oh, you may already have a vehicle that, especially for that, but you don't know to use it because they don't tell you what's coming in the next port. So, it's more than just onboarding with that one. That one, I love building games, but that one, just no.
Mm-hmm. And again, as we're going to talk about with our topic when it comes to intros to games, if the intro of your game sucks, usually it kind of represents the rest of your experience, I think. I think it's rare for me to find a game that if I hated the intro, that all of a sudden the game becomes amazing after it.
I would disagree with that because, like, I have run into many instances where, the intro has sucked, and I ended up loving it. I mean, 7 Days is a good case of that because they had zero onboarding at the beginning. They have onboarding now, but, they were in early access, and, onboarding is sort of a thing you do at the end kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And that kind of and right there is why a lot of games tend to suffer, is that either A, they do the intro way too early and then they never go back to it, or they save it so far into the very end that nobody really wants to work on, then they kind of half-ass it. And you really can't do that in today's market. And this goes with something I was talking to Shark about earlier. I'm not sure how to phrase it as a topic or a video, but about how long people actually spend playing a video game. And the reason is that I bought two games, that MO Ashtray and this game Black Hole. Both games are considered celebrated. They won awards, they got a lot of high reviews. And then when I look at the Steam achievements, half the people who bought the game, of both games, didn't get the very first achievement of those games. And the very first achievement is literally just beat the opening section. Like Black Hole, the opening section is literally walking from the left-hand side of the screen to the right. That's it. And half the people who bought that game didn't even do that.
maybe half of the people that bought it didn't even boot the game.
Yeah.
And to Matthew, what do we mean by intro? Well, intro it's a double topic, basically, both referring to the start of the game. One half of it is onboarding the player, tutorials, teaching the player how to play, that kind of thing. And the other half, the other topic is the hooking players, getting people hooked so they, in the beginning of the game, so that they'll continue on to the end of the game, or a lot farther than just the beginning of the game. Because, like, if you look at statistics, a lot of people in a lot of games don't make it past the first, several minutes of a game. And, some of those refund it. Some of them just have it in their backlog and never come back to it, kind of thing. But there are so many games out there that didn't make it past the first few minutes. Like, I seen a bit of that in my last game. The word of the day, Chromasia. But what I want to do when we do the remake is I want to make it where we get a lot more people a lot farther through the game.
It's kind of.
I think we did have higher than average on that kind of thing, but I'm unsure exactly.
In a way, it's kind of similar to what people on YouTube deal with how long do people watch a video for? Like, you want your conversion rate, or your minutes, whatever that rating is, to be high. I think mine is like 8 or 9 minutes, depending upon the video. And that's, I think, decent. But it's that idea that you could have the most amazing piece of content, the perfect video, the perfect video game, but if people, sign off 2 minutes, a minute, 30 seconds in, none of that matters.
Yeah, and this also applies to trailers, which is a reason in the trailers, it's like the first 5 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. There's a reason why ads on YouTube, have the skip button after 5 seconds kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, your trailer, you absolutely, this is why during our trailer talk, why we said in your trailer, never lead with your game company logo and everything else, because that is not a selling point. Not unless you're a AAA developer, and then it might be. But
or you have a big name. You're Sid Meier. You're Soren Johnson, Jake Solomon. If you put Jake Solomon's name on something, I'm going to probably buy after playing XCOM.
Yeah. But those would all be AAA, wouldn't they?
Well, Soren is now indie. He owns his own studio.
No.
But yeah, again, people, and it's the same thing for this. Hi, Arnold. That like when I had my little intro for Game Wisdom, that's about 8 seconds of video, and sometimes I usually shorten 4 seconds because you don't want anything more than that because that time, again, every second is precious. I talk about this. Yeah, I talk about this in my presentation on how to get started on YouTube, where a lot of people tend to struggle when it comes to having a coherent talk when they're trying to do something on YouTube. They'll just go stammering, they'll rant and ramble. I mean, we see this with even a lot of people who are professional on YouTube, that they have trouble kind of keeping a thought going. And they'll either, suffer and stumble, or they'll just go on like 27 different tangents. And you have to be able to think about what your audience is looking at or how they're consuming it. Like for myself, when I make these videos and we do these kinds of talks, we try to, well, sometimes we try to stay on point, but we at least try to keep a coherent message. It's not like Shark and I just stop talking about video games and spend, 30 minutes surfing for, barbecue pits while we're doing this video or doing these live streams.
You know what we should do right now?
Hmm?
We should search for barbecue pits.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea.
And it is tough to kind of condense your topic or condense your game down into a 10-second video or 30 seconds. And we did have this topic about making a good trailer, that typically you want, your wow bang, the glory trailer, this game looks amazing. And then some developers will follow up with the gameplay or the more technical trailer, the 8 to 10 minute long one.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to be able to pull people in. That's ultimately going to be kind of our message for the stream today. That if you can't convince somebody to even sit through and press start on your game's menu, then you have just completely failed.
Yep. But also we have to realize that, a lot of people buy games and they intend to play them and then they, never get the chance to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I mean, it's not just that hurdle that you got to get over to get them to buy the game. It's a hurdle you got to get over to get them to, boot the game after they bought it.
Yep.
And then the hurdle to prevent them from refunding it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the game dev community, we're regular athletes.
Yeah.
We have to be athletes and do all these hurdles if we are to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a game dev Olympics.
There we go.
We're starting that right now. The game dev Olympics. Actually, it's already started long ago, but
all right. But I think with that, let us try doing the weird game segment now. For any of the regulars tuning in, they're going to be completely confused. I think we've been talking since 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see what crazy things are coming out this week. And speaking about intros, we'll see how good they are at thumbnails and just presenting their games.
How they get us over those hurdles. How good of an Olympian are they?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right word? Olympian?
I think so. Let's see. Underground Keeper 2. Project Senko. Hack and slash game. Wait, hack and slash game where you use a baseball bat. That doesn't seem right.
It's
Oh, it's another
Hack and
Digipin
Slash?
game.
It's hack and smash, not hack and slash.
Mm-hmm. So something tells me this is not going to be a lengthy game.
Or one with a lot of depth.
Mm-hmm. Kingdom of Bees. Make sure to enjoy that game, people.
Oh, jeez.
1 second. Apparently, the YouTube chat. Let me shrink it down a little bit. There we go. That should be good.
Yeah, you always have it going off the board.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this is an idle game or not. Not the bees. Void Space. Highly experimental 2D top-down sci-fi MMORPG. It's attempting to model the human experience in a society. That last part doesn't sound right.
That's a whole lot of tags.
It's free to play. Ooh, it's effectively infinite.
It's infinite as long as they keep on developing it.
Mm-hmm. Everything is made by players. Oh boy.
That's about 500,000 red flags right there.
Allow players to render infrastructure. Oh god.
We didn't make a game. We just made a platform for other people to make games. Have fun. Yep.
It's free to play. We put a game entirely free to play, monetizing on a premium membership and on cosmetics.
We talked about, how, cosmetics is more abusive than pay to win. It is literally the most abusive.
Redux Force Redux. Wait. Rigid Force Redux. Whew. That's a tongue twister. Let's see. Yeah. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em up. Ooh, with a synthwave soundtrack. This game is just trying to tongue-tie me with every one of its descriptions, isn't it?
Yep. I should have called it tongue-tied Redux.
Mm-hmm. But not for the PC. That's weird.
Is it for consoles?
Specifically Xbox One and Switch. Weird. I'm gonna put in for it. That's a weird one.
Something. Some kind of.
Bocube Raiders Run.
Raiders Run.
Ugh.
You indeed.
1v1 arena, and then everything else is coming soon.
Bets on coming soon ever happening? If soon will ever come?
Wait, one screen platformer is out, right? This game pay for the other mainline.
This is a prologue. They talked about prologues. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the screen's been improved. That's a whole lot. Wait, we talk about visual novel games who list how many words. Do we talk about games that list how many pixels?
I think we need to.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I found out that Itch isn't just on Steam. Not Itch. Keymailer isn't just Steam games. It's also like Itch Games gets on here too. So some of these bad examples that we find all the time, yeah, a lot of those are probably Itch.
Siren Head Ducks Hunt? Okay. Frequency.
What's a Townscaper?
Let's see. Frequency is a fast-paced, music-based geometric puzzle game. Whew. Oh, God, so it's puzzle solving and music. Those are my two favorite things. Throw in some slow-moving bullets and that'll just hit everything.
Worm just had a good point right there, a good suggestion right there, that we just talk about the best design choice from our top list of games.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, added to the endless list of topics.
That endless list has been, I wouldn't say getting empty, but it's been getting, I don't know.
Oh, wait, I think someone told me about this game.
Trash.
Build quaint towns, yeah. No gold, just plenty of building. Pick colors, pop down on a house, and watch. So this is not really a, city builder per se, but it could be a cute thing to look at.
Yeah, it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, hello, Igor. Can't
Igor.
say it. Igor. There we go.
Crush, kill, and destroy. Let's see. Hard to fly, micromanagement. Wait, there's a game that I saw on the last page. Where was it? Nehrim? Wait, why are you selling me a total conversion mod for Elder Scrolls 4? What?
I don't even think that's legal.
Yeah, you can't sell a total conversion mod on a store. That is kind of weird. I mean, you can put a total conversion mod like for free on a workshop or download, but you can't sell it. I have lived. Bernadette and the Demon Circus. Let's see. What?
Did you see the Crush, Kill, and Destroy Extreme game?
I think so. I didn't click on it. What?
I didn't see it.
Let's see. Where was it? Ready and Fire. What the hell? Crush Kill's a real-time strategy game. Wait. Due to technical issues beyond our control, the multiplayer mode is unavailable. That's good. Wait a minute. This is a remake, because Ziggurat has been buying up a lot of those old properties. Because Beam Software, they are old school. I don't think they're even around anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. But it makes sense. There's been a lot of buyouts. Like when Atari was bought out by somebody who was supposedly going to take care of it and, well endorsed, and then, didn't.
What the hell? What the faux roguelike restaurant startup? Okay, I need to click on this.
This seems like a game for Josh.
Yes. It's an upcoming cooking simulation game about creating your own dream restaurant. Design the layout. Ooh, fancy. Ooh, we can have 4-player co-op. I'm not
How
sure.
do you like that UI?
Yeah. Oh, I love the. I was looking at the bottom right. I didn't see the score money. With the money and the score kind of like superimposed on each other.
What about that overlay of the blue transparent screen at the bottom?
Mm-hmm. Ooh. There's nothing describing gameplay, though.
It's a roguelike.
What's a roguelike?
What is a roguelike?
Let's see. I think this is a game somebody got in touch with me about. You're hacking. Well, I'll put in a key for it. Although I did request one a few weeks ago. Delayed Sun.
You'll get 2 keys on the same day.
Mm-hmm. Wait. Oh, there's a... Again, horror game developers need to learn a pitch black screenshot does not sell your game.
Yeah, somebody was asking for feedback on something of an image, and I was like, maybe turn on the lights because can't see anything. It was just the only thing you would see was the light that was coming inside the window, and most of that light was blocked off by the creature thing that was coming inside the window, and you could only see the you could basically only see the silhouette of the creature because there was basically no light, and where there was light, it was right around the creature, kind of making the creature, already hard to see, even harder to see.
Yeah. I love a realistic zombie experience. Somebody's been studying real life zombies.
Yeah.
Also, these screenshots do not look like they belong to the same game. We have nice, looks like a beach. Then we have shooting. Then we have just like, looks like almost completely different textures.
Probably is. Probably a bunch of assets.
Mm.
And it looks very asset-y.
Turn Little Town Hero. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, this is the game, the new thing from the Pokemon developers.
Does that mean the next Pokemon got delayed?
Probably. And soundtrack by Toby Fox. Wait,
Toby
Game
Fox,
Freak is working Undertale.
Yeah.
And it's PC. Game Freak is working on a PC game. Interesting. Well, we'll see.
Maybe they got word that other game went to PC.
Red Star Raider. Oh no, not aliens. Looks a little generic.
The spaceship is the thing that stands out the most. But everything else looked pretty generic.
Cold Canyon, we played that one. Alright, one more page after this, and then we'll get to our topics. Rogue Book. Oh, this looks interesting.
It's a book full of rogues?
But are they like rogues?
Is there like a book?
Rogue Book is a single-player roguelike deck builder that takes place in a procedurally generated world. That ticks off a lot of boxes right there.
Yep. That's an instant request for Josh.
Oh, wait a minute. This is from the creators of Faria. Interesting.
Faria. I know that, but my brain's not putting it together.
That CCG, that was a Kickstarter, then was paid, then became free to play, and I think it either... No, I think I'm confusing that with the other CCG. Oh no, I'm forgetting it. I had the developer on for it. I see it. It was like that pixel art. It was like a tactical strategy CCG. Duelist. There we go. It just came to me.
Oh, that was Duelist?
Well, that Duelist, I think, went out. I don't know if Faria is still in. Let's see.
Yeah, Duelist was pretty good.
Faria... No, Faria is still available.
I'm sad about Duelist, though.
Yeah.
But definitely get a key to that.
Yeah. Second major game. Will you be able to outsmart the book?
If you don't get the key soon enough, you might have to contact the developer since you know him.
No, I know the Duelist, not Faria.
Oh, is it not the same?
No. Duelist was another company. This one's Abracam. Alright, I'm going to put in for it.
So we still don't know what Faria is.
Faria is the other, kind of like CCG, where you like put units down on the board.
Oh, that's really descriptive.
Yeah. Hey, Miss Over, before Shark finishes his game, everyone will be done with deck builders, yep. And Cyberpunk.
Well, mine's not a deck builder, mine's a CCG.
Well, we got one good game this week. Can we find one more before we move on? Strikers 1945. Okay, this is just a re-release. Wait, you can fly 5 different types of planes.
It's less deck builders that I'm worried about. And CCGs. It's more Cyberpunk that I'm worried about.
So let me start. Enoma, A New Beginning. Pokey the Stick Figure. That's a good name.
That's a good red flag, too.
Let's see. 2D platform plays Immortal Pokey.
Oh, yeah. Lots of red flags.
Oof. How many?
All of them.
Alright. Let us get to our main topics then, because I think we got one good game.
Yeah, the issue with that, Thorn, is once Cyberpunk becomes too much of a hit, and there's hundreds and hundreds of games out there, like there was with the space games and the zombie games, and then everybody was like, "Oh, not another space game. Oh, not another zombie game. I'm out." And that's what I'm worried about.
All right. So
got to get out there on the front end.
So with that, let's get to our topic then. Let's discuss about a little bit more on intros and why is so important to have a strong intro to a game. And I guess the first thing we should probably do is define what is a good intro. So, Shark, when you hear good intro, what comes to your mind?
Well, two main parts, and that's the does it hook the player? Is it going to hook me and keep me playing? And part of hooking people is onboarding. And does it teach me how to play well enough that I will keep on playing, that I can get hooked? So we need to both. Basically, one is hooking the player, and the other one's kind of setting the hook, I guess, or maybe putting the hook out there and then letting it set. I don't know, terminology, but point is that you need both, because if you don't teach a player how to play your game, they're not going to probably play your game. And if you don't hook the player in the first several minutes of the game, they're not going to keep on playing likely. They may, but probably not.
And for the thumbnail, I chose God of War, the 2018 version. And God of War is a game that focuses more on kind of the story and the beat to get the player hooked, as opposed to being more mechanical. And we typically see intros of these two kinds, that either you focus all on the story with maybe very light gameplay, or you try and do your best to get the player acclimated to the gameplay as soon as possible, and then just throw them into the thick of it.
Yeah, I think the methods that work best depend on the game.
Yes.
Like if it's a very story heavy game kind of thing, maybe go with more of the story. If it's a very mechanic, visceral action game kind of thing, maybe go with the mechanics. You want to show your best off in your best light, and that's kind of the point of hooking the player. Another term for it has also been front loading, but front loading doesn't mean necessarily that there's nothing in the back of that or the middle of that game, but it's just a thing that we're going to wow you from the start. Sadly, my last game, I was not fully versed in front loading or hooking player in the first several minutes. So my game is actually my big hook and my big everything is like in the last like 2 or 3 levels.
Yeah, and I think what you said there about depends on the game is very important to clarify for people watching, because you have to understand again who the market is for your game. For instance, something like Factorio. Factorio is a game that is very much aimed at people who want to do, building the emergent kind of design with your factories. It's not a game that needs 50 minutes of story and cutscenes. And I've played some games lately that they kind of missed the point of their design. I was trying this game Black Hole before I started the stream today, which is a hardcore 2D platformer. So when
Did you get sucked in?
No, I did not. The first 10 minutes of the game is literally all exposition, spoken as slowly as possible, that will have no relation to what is happening once you actually start playing the game.
Mm.
And you can, conversely, you look at something like Super Meat Boy, where the entire intro of that game is, well, just that opening scene, what was it, mocking Final Fight, or him just kidnapping Bandage Girl, and then, here you go, jump over some saws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have to have a proper hook, and like I said before, it needs to be depends on the game and kind of focused on your strengths of your game. You want to basically flaunt one of your strengths of your game in the beginning in the most polished form you can, kind of thing. You basically kind of like I know a lot of games actually literally do this, but I'm going to figuratively put it, but like don't take this literal like some games do it. But basically you kind of want to have your final boss be your first boss as well as your last boss, kind of thing. I know there's some games that do that literally, but you just want that wow factor, that impact of that you get from the final boss at the beginning of the game, because getting that kind of impact, and I don't mean literally put your final boss in there like some games have, but getting that level of impact at the beginning will really hook a player. But you have to do that in such a way that it fits your game. Maybe depending on your game, if your game's story heavy, maybe that means having a good bit of story where you get attached to a certain few characters, kind of thing, and then before you even finish the initial story, one of them dies and everything goes into chaos.
We've never seen that happen, right?
No, never seen that happening in my first game. But
and also like that Freedom Plan the other night, like the opening scene features 3 characters getting beheaded, and then we learn about like 2 or 3 off-screen deaths in like the first like 20 minutes of playing the game. Like people are just dying left or right.
I'm pretty sure they were inspired by not only the Sonic video game, but the one thing I think Sonic really had going for it, and that was that really dark cartoon they had. But yeah, I mean, but like on the other hand, like God of War, I know they did it another way by having in one game, I forget which one it was, but they had this like Goliath as a or giant or something as the tutorial boss fight, where you had to fight this guy who you barely even fed in his palm, and he was just this huge epic spectacle that I don't even think they even did that good for their final boss, kind of thing.
Yeah,
just like tons of production value, tons of everything, but like there was very little you could do in that, because like it was still the tutorial kind of thing, and it was just teaching you the very, very basics through this epic boss fight.
Yeah, and all like God of War 1 had you fight the Hydra. God of War 2 you fought the giant Titan. I think didn't God of War 3 you fight Poseidon as the first boss?
I'm unsure.
Yeah, but yeah, like God of War. Like, we're not talking about the 2018 version just yet, but the original 3 all really bring the player into the world as quickly as possible. And like it reminds me of like one of my game ideas I have like in my head. The original concept, like I imagine like a 10 to 15 minute cutscene, explain the exposition. And then as I thought, I realized I wouldn't even want to sit through a 15-minute exposition cutscene of my own game. What would make me think other people would want to do that?
Because other people don't like skipping cutscenes like you do.
But you have to realize again that when you're trying to get somebody into your game, you need to there has to be that hook. And giving the player that hook, again, is a lot harder than it sounds. Because, again, it is based on every genre is different.
Mm-hmm.
So, with like God of War 2018, that begins a lot more somber. If the original God of War was, a roller coaster ride, God of War 2018 is kind of like, riding a inner tube down a river, nice, peaceful, setting things up very slowly approach.
Don't you mean Dad of War?
Oh, yes. With Boy.
Yeah.
And we have been seeing, I think that's, again, like one of those big things about where big budget and AAA games have been going, is that they've been trying to follow the cinematic route of really, slowing down their intros.
Yeah, I think you don't have to have a fast-paced intro, but you don't necessarily want a slow pace. I think the pace that you want is dependent on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it all depends kind of thing. Like, you don't want to, basically whatever you give them in that intro needs to be at least somewhat representative to what rest of the game is. Because if you give them this huge action-based, everything's, going off and exploding kind of thing, like Michael Bay kind of thing, and then it gets into the game and it's this visual novel, things are not going to work out well for you.
Yeah. And you can definitely go as weird as you want. Like Bayonetta would be a solid example of an intro that technically that opening cutscene doesn't really explain anything, but it doesn't have to. It's just basically, here's a ton of weirdness, now start fighting enemies.
I can't remember the original Bayonetta cutscenes.
You had them like fighting as like the clock tower was falling, and then you had the whole graveyard scene.
Oh yeah. I mean, those make sense to me now, but did those make sense to me when I first started? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
And again, like when you're trying to get somebody into your game, I think this is another area where a lot of indie developers and first-time developers tend to struggle with. Because how many indie games and kind of student projects have we played where there is literally no intro? Sometimes there's literally no title screen.
Or a volume slider.
Or options menu. Or even control bindings. And it's just literally, you start the game, you're in the middle of it, and there's no real intro. And I think this goes with
to jump.
What was that?
I said press start to jump.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Or a left on your D-pad to shoot your gun.
Yeah. Hit the select button to move upwards.
Yep. And I think this goes with something I think a lot of people feel like you want your intro to be as quick and snappy as possible. But in the same vein, there has to be an intro. Like, no intro does not equal intro.
And intros can be all different sorts. It could be, an action-based segment like God of War where you're fighting the giant, or several others where you're just dumped in and here's 1,000 enemies coming around you, and then you die, and then you're reborn, and that's the beginning of a roguelike.
Yep. And even games that do kind of drop you in, like Hades did, it did kind of slow down after that opening. And that's another thing some developers like to do, is, like, as you said, they'll put you in, like, right in the thick of it, you'll die, or something crazy will happen, and then we kind of get, how this all happened or what's going on moment.
Yeah. They may drop you into the thick of things and be like, 15 years earlier, here's this. Because, like, I know, like, a lot of RPGs like doing that. Like, they will give you this epic battle and just let you, go in there and start losing. Of course, they cut it off before you actually die or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when everything's hopeless and everything, and then they'll be like 15 years earlier, and then you start going this quest, and, maybe halfway, 3/4 of the way through the game, you get back to that same moment and everything, and then right at that point where you were about to die, you come out with some kind of amazing power, and then you just kill the enemy right there, and then you go forward, kind of thing.
We saw that with that Chris Tales games that we played during the Steam Festival. The time manipulating one with like the 3 like past, present, future. Not bad RPG, but that one I'm still wondering how they're going to actually flesh that out. And again, as you said, like, it's a way of giving the player something to focus on. When you're starting a game completely blind, you still need, what's going to get somebody to keep their interest, and not just hit exit and then delete the game.
Yeah. I know that Subnautica kept it really simple, but they did it in what they have in a good way by they show your ship getting blown up, and they have you get into a eject capsule and ejecting out, and then like things start going wrong, and like loose stuff in your thing starts flying all over your thing until you're hit in the head, and then you wake up. And your capsule that's burning, and all shorted out and everything, and then you'll have to kind of go through the tutorial of get the fire extinguisher, put out the fire, do this, do that. Once you get that fire out, once you get all those fires, one literal, several figured out, then it's like now you've got to find a way to survive and go out into the alien planet kind of thing.
And to Ford's point, I think games need an intro. But again, intro can be 10 seconds, it could be a minute, it could be even just like a 2-second thing. You just need something to, again...
And the intro could be a boss fight, or it could be, a fight against tons of minions. It can be a cutscene. It could be, a movie. It could be any number of things. But an intro, I think an intro is always needed.
Yeah. To Mr. Elrud's point, that is, I think, is a very important thing to talk about. That when we talk about games that aren't story focused, something that is, a billion% mechanically driven, a grand strategy, a 4X game. Games where you really don't have that same structure of something like a Final Fantasy or a Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. How do you do an intro there? And I would argue like an intro to a grand strategy game would fall more on the onboarding side more than anything else. What would you say?
Well, if you look at several of them, I mean, like, it is sort of onboarding kind of thing, but it's also, an intro. It's like, hey, we've, crashed our ship onto this coastline. We need to now build a city so we can survive. Well, what do we need first? We need food, we need water, we need this, that, and the other. Build your food stuff here, build that there. And then that is an intro. That is that is also onboarding, and it's also hooking the players on the mechanically driven focus of that game.
And when we talk about something, again, like Europa Universalis, Solaris, and those kinds of games, they do, in a way, they still have an intro. They usually have, like that one window blurb. You are so-and-so, the so-and-so empire, and you must do this.
Yeah, although Stellaris definitely lacks in the onboarding.
Oh, yes. So does Hearts of Iron, but that's a topic for another day.
Well, we're doing onboarding today,
Yeah.
so I mean, maybe it's not, but
and and I think that's part of the reason, like to his point about onboarding with grand strategy, I don't think he's ever seen one. That's part of the problem when it comes to kind of getting somebody into these games. Is that and this goes back to a point we were talking about earlier with Besiege and some of you, I think the game that you mentioned, I think it was 7 Days to Die or something else, where you had to do your own intro, you had to do your own onboarding, and
yeah. Although 7 Days to Die was because it was in early access.
yeah, and you have to be very mindful of that as a developer, that it is your job to convince somebody to play your game. It's not their job to convince themselves to play your game.
And that's what the intro and the hooking and the onboarding is for. Is to convince them to play your game. If you give them something that is representative of your game, that is very good at the beginning, then you're both hooking them, and if you teach them how to do it, then you're onboarding them.
Mm-hmm. And again, like, part of that problem with grand strategy is that and I think this is another issue when we talk about bad or lack of intros, is that the developer assumes, of course, that the player going in already knows all that. Again, this is one of the things we see from a lot of first-time students who make playformers or platformers, that they don't put any tutorial messages or button prompts because they assume that people know to hit spacebar. But
to Elrod's point, there is a lot of ways to do it. It's just finding which way it is best to do it. Like if you look at it, you can tell like games that or genres that really lack onboarding kind of thing, because a lot of people don't like them. A lot of people won't play them, and they'll become a niche. Like tactical RPGs is one of those. It's such a niche because most people don't know how to play it, and almost every tactical RPG out there expects you to already have played a tactical RPG and know how to do it before they even play it. And they don't, which is the reason, unless they've already played that kind of game. So you lock yourself off to all these people and everything, and people don't like it. Yeah. Which is the reason why when I made mine, I looked at everybody's complaint, and the biggest complaint that I seen in tactical RPGs was that it was too complicated and they did not know how to work it, and especially on Disgaea, kind of thing. They just got completely lost in that kind of thing. And I wanted to make a Disgaea-like tactical RPG. So I worked very, very hard on onboarding and making everything easy to learn and everything. And I worked really hard on the onboarding. I could have definitely done better in hindsight, because, hindsight's 50-50. But or is that 2020? I screwed up the whole thing. but anyway, I worked really hard to make it where somebody that's never played a tactical RPG could come in and get into the game, and I tested with both people who were hardcore tactical RPG fans, people who were medium on it, people that hated tactical RPGs, and people who hated turn-based in general. And I made sure that all of them enjoyed it. And right now I'm making a card game and a CCG, and I am going to be testing with people who hate CCGs, people who don't like card games, people who don't like turn-based, people who love card games, who love turn-based and all this other stuff. And I'm going to try to make it where all of them enjoy it. And I think that's part of the reason why we ended up with a perfect review score. Of course, it's easier with only 14 reviews, but that's another important entirely. But like like your favorite game, other Sharks game, it didn't even get perfect review score all the way up until like I think like by the time it had like 7 or 8 reviews, it had already had a negative one. So
yeah. And to the point about everything having to work together, again, this is why we see a lot of people have turned to kind of the structure of a let's play or somebody walking through the thought process of playing a game. And I do think it would, like when we talked about prologues, I think the grand strategy genre for X could really make use of prologues to expand and improve their fan base. Because again,
they could.
Like here's my example. Again, I'm looking at Total War 3 Kingdoms. It is considered, again, like the most highly celebrated Total War game. But guess what? I am not spending $40, $50 on a genre that I don't even have any experience with or any real love of. So the only options I would have are to wait for it to drop down to like $10, maybe $15, which is very low that happening considering how successful it is, or just not even really pay attention to it. But having some kind of prologue, having this kind of test bed that the player is free to explore and design that, full well knowing that this is supposed to be a compartmentalized version of your game, go all out with the onboarding on that. Make it like its own unique thing and try and get those people into that genre.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think onboarding, like proper onboarding, is the way to turn a niche into no longer a niche. Because if you can onboard people into the genre, assuming it's a good genre kind of thing in general, and that people aren't just not playing it because they're not wanting to play it, but rather not playing it because they don't know how or they can't get into it. If you can get rid of that problem, get rid of that onboarding problem, then you just open yourself up to a far, far wider, community. But that said, is opening yourself up to that wide of a community isn't going to do you any good if you don't have aesthetics, trailers, and screenshots that are on point.
Yep. And again, all these things have to work in unison, or nobody's going to be interested in your game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough, as I'm sure everybody knows by now.
No, it's easy. What are you talking about? You can just skip lunch, and you made a game like that.
Yeah.
Just skip lunch, you made a game, and just profit.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk to the my guest this week is going to be the developer who does server architecture. So he's going to explain how you can make multiplayer in like an afternoon. Which I'm sure that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
That's where I remember it was apparently. Yeah. But again,
don't know about that game specifically, but onboarding does not make up for bad gameplay or bad graphics or anything else. Onboarding just allows them to play your game. But if your game is not fun, if it's not visually pleasing, if it's not a lot of things, you're going to lose them anyway. So like, I mean, you have to have pretty much everything or you get nothing. That's kind of how game dev works. Is
oh, did I lose you there?
Maybe.
Oh, you kind of like cut out there, like her game dev works and then nothing.
Oh, well, that was kind of the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and again, like a good intro is not going to save a bad game, but it's one of those aspects that if a developer is doing their job right, they're going to have a strong intro, just as they're going to have a good onboarding, just as they're going to have a very stylized or very appealing aesthetic. And when we see developers struggle, it's never one thing. It's usually like a cascading effect.
Mm-hmm. And it is very much like dominoes, because I think all of game dev is like dominoes, because like if you missed your aesthetics kind of thing, then you missed your wish list. And then when you miss your wish list, you miss your Steam algorithm promoting you. And when you miss your Steam algorithm promoting you, you miss your sales. Which then when you miss your sales, you then miss your Steam algorithm even more, which then causes you to lose more sales, which causes you to lose more Steam, and then it's just this domino effect of the algorithm hurting you because you hurt yourself to begin with, and then that then that just chain reacts into hurting you more, and then more and more and more. And the thing is see, it's not just that way, but it's also chaining off of, if your aesthetics aren't good, then your YouTubers and other media is probably not going to cover you, which hurts you there, which then hurts you in the Steam algorithm. And it's this cruel cycle kind of thing of, you mess up one vital thing and everything else is going to collapse. Now then, you can mess up something non-vital and not have everything collapse. Aesthetics are definitely vital. Onboarding is vital unless you're going to just go to a very small set of players that know how to play that game already.
Yep.
And if you don't get the hook, that is absolutely vital, because then you're going to end up with a lot of refunds and a lot of people that don't play your game, and very few that actually play it, and lots of bad reviews.
Yeah. And again, you can still have these games be successful. As we said, like Europa Universalis, Paradox Interactive's games, they are immensely successful for them. But it's that case of how much more could they be if they had a better job of onboarding and putting together a solid intro. And this is why, for instance, like so many people fell in love with Mortal Kombat 11, and kind of NetherRealm doing a lot more to make their games more appealing. Because again, the fighting genre is another one of those genres that suffered in terms of a strong intro. Many of them didn't really have an intro. It's you start the game, click arcade mode, and that's it.
Yeah. And to Elrod's point, I don't think that's true. I don't think most onboarding is done on the Switch and other similar platforms. I think to have a chance of getting to Switch, you have to have good onboarding. Or any console, because they probably ain't going to touch you if you don't have good onboarding. You probably won't ever see a Zachtronics game on Switch. Because there's not good onboarding in there. And I think onboarding is in most games. The main place you don't see onboarding is in your grand strategy games, your tactical RPGs, your RTSs, your even some RTSs have onboarding. And I mean, there's just a few genres that really seem to lack in the onboarding. And if you look at those genres, they're all at the kind of the bottom of the barrel when it comes to what does well on Steam.
Yep.
So if you were to take that into consideration, you might think that onboarding might be something that would get you in the bottom ranks of Steam. And it's probably true.
And again, for some of these games that try to do onboarding and they failed, typically the onboarding wasn't the problem. Like, we played that game, that very weird strategy Space Invaders game where it had a tutorial. The tutorial was bad, but again, so was the other aspects of the game.
Mm-hmm. And another thing is that you can make the onboarding itself bad by either not teaching what you need to teach. You can teach a player, you can go real handholdy and be like, press the up arrow to move up, press the down arrow to move down, press the left arrow to go left, press the right arrow to, go right, press the, space key to jump, and then we'll teach you nothing else. And then there's like 500 mechanics in there that they didn't teach you about, like how to build a spaceship,
Yeah.
It's like Kerbal Space Program. They'll teach you, like if just imagine if Kerbal Space Program just taught you how to move left, right, and jump, and then they didn't teach you anything else. That would be very bad onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, onboarding that just teaches you in a way that confuses you more. Mm-hmm. That's more anti-onboarding than onboarding kind of thing.
Yeah. And to Mr. Earl's point about platform games starting young children, the problem though is that there are genres that aren't really aimed for young kids. I can't imagine a 8-year-old playing a Stellaris, or getting a child into a roguelike or Dwarf Fortress. And again, like we've said, every game is somebody's first, and one of the reasons why games are very approachable tend to do well is that they tend to keep people around longer than the games that just drop you in and say, okay, go die for the next hour.
Yeah. Like right now, that's what, Scrap Mechanic has done to me. They dropped me in. There was a hair bit of onboarding, but not very much. Mm-hmm. And it was not good onboarding. It was very incomplete. It was just, it was the kind of the example of we'll teach you how to move and jump and whatnot, and that's all we're teaching you. We're not teaching you how to build anything.
Which is kind of the core gameplay of that game.
Exactly. And, because of that, and that was the game that I was looking forward to the most out of all the ones I bought. Because of that, I spent, 20, 30 minutes playing that, and then I stopped, and then I was like, let me go try Dicey Dungeons, and Dicey Dungeons taught me how to play it. They had very good onboarding and everything, and I played it, like my entire first run kind of thing. Went all the way through with my warrior and unlocked the thief, and then I stopped at the end of that, which, what was that? Probably about an hour or something, hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to going back to that one, and not the Scrap Mechanic. Despite Scrap Mechanic being the main game I wanted out of the 5 or 6 games, 7 games I bought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, when your game fails in terms of onboarding, fails in terms of a good intro, there are people who that will not bother them at all. But you always have to consider when you're designing a game, what about the people who refund it immediately? What about those people, like we said earlier? Like, there are people who buy a game and they don't even make it past the intro of the game. Because they either didn't bother playing it, or they play and they're just like, I'm done immediately.
Yeah. And to your point about Advance Wars and Fire Emblem, well, Advance Wars is a very different kind of game. And also, I don't think they have a whole lot of onboarding. They have like a minimum amount, I think. And Fire Emblem, I don't think Fire Emblem has any onboarding, or if it's very minimum kind of thing.
The older ones had like super little. I don't know about the latest ones.
Yeah, like and because of that, like that and most other tactical RPGs have little to no onboarding, and you
And
have to kind of learn it on your own, which is why.
and
Well, Advance Wars again was a very, very different kind of tactical RPG.
to that point, as the story goes with Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, they were going to cancel the Fire Emblem series when I forget which one wasn't going. They didn't think. Excuse me. Wow, voice is dying already. But they were going to cancel Fire Emblem due to lack of sales. So for the final, what was going to be their quote unquote final game, they basically said, you know what? We're going to make this one as approachable as possible, and it turned into the best selling Fire Emblem game of all time.
Because they did onboarding.
Yep, they adjusted the difficulty settings, they made things a lot more easier and more approachable for new players, and guess what? It sold like gangbusters and literally saved the Fire Emblem franchise.
So what you're saying is Fire Emblem was about to die because they didn't do onboarding, and then they did onboarding, and then they were successful as all heck and made gangbuster money.
Yep. Ironically, if it failed, it would mean we probably would have gotten more Advanced Wars.
Yeah.
And Advanced Wars, for instance, they kind of went in, I think they went in a different direction. The layer entries got to be a little bit more incomprehensible for new players. The Days of Ruin just threw out like all the lore and all the story of the previous games. And again, there are ways you can have. Again, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to a solid intro. You can even have an intro be as much as a crazy story mode, like we saw with Injustice, Mortal Kombat, even something like Smash Brothers did that. But that would lead into another topic about then how do you convert those people into playing the game for real. But again, I think that may be a little too big for right now.
Well, a big part of that is the onboarding. So you've got to both onboard them if you want to if you want anybody to get your game that is not already just, owns like 15 examples of that game in their library. And there's a big problem in that. If they already own 15 examples of your game's genre in their library, then you're going to have to impress them even harder with your aesthetics and everything else to have any chance at getting them to play your game, because they have 15 other games that they can go back to. They already know how to play your game, but they already know how to play these other games, and they can go back and play them.
Yeah.
Why would they play your game over those games unless you're different in some way or better in some way?
Or you have a name to go along with it.
So, likely you don't have the name. Likely that if you're different, then you probably need some onboarding for that difference. And if you're better, I mean, that's kind of the only way you can really do it. But like, if you're better how? Like, did you spend $10 million on this game instead of $5? I mean, like, how are you better? Because I mean, if you're just competing with pure raw performance kind of thing, you're in a losing battle there. That's what AAA does. And if you're an indie trying to compete in the AAA space, you have more problems than money on your hand.
Yeah. I thought every indie developer can compete with EA.
Oh, yeah. You just need to make a sports game, put a bunch of loot boxes in it, and you're good to go.
And again, like, so much of a good intro, it's one of those things that, again, like, you don't know it when it's good, but you can feel it when it's bad, kind of things.
What do you mean by that, Splendid?
While we wait for that, like again, we've played so many indie games where you are just dropped off. Maybe the intro is just literally, as you said, press forward, press W to go forward, press space to jump. Okay, you're done. Go do everything else. And
Yeah, I think that might be too handholdy though. Like, I mean, most people, it's not their first video game, but I don't think even your first video game needs to have that. But that doesn't clarify your statement there, Splendid. We need more context than being a gamer and being pissed off. They're going to apply to so many things.
But this is also why, for our lost solid intros, that you have, like, you really do have to kind of compartmentalize everything down to give the player, the most, bang for their buck to get them interested. And bang for your buck can be everything from a story perspective, as we said earlier, to, again, having a really solid opening level or onboarding that just basically gives the player everything they need to know to start playing, and then, cuts them loose and go explore.
And to Elred's point about, that you can do, seamless onboarding kind of thing, that's what we did in our last game. And it wasn't completely seamless. I mean, there was one, blatant, thing with the level scaling, but pretty much everything else was seamless in there. And seamless is the way to go if you can do it seamless.
Yeah.
But like not everything is teachable seamlessly. So teach the things that you can teach seamlessly, and things that you can't teach seamlessly, teach it in another way.
Yeah. And again, for games that have very unique, for games that have very unique gameplay loops, sometimes you have to get handholdy with them. Something like with Factorio, for instance. You can't do seamless and explain to somebody how to set up automation. You have to give them the building blocks and then, hopefully allow them to go forward from there.
Yep. Even though Factorio, in the core essence, is a super simple, basic gameplay loop. It's shockingly how simple that gameplay loop is, but it's so complicated at the same time. Because all you have to do, the whole core gameplay loop, is you set up a miner, you set up a little arm to get the stuff out of the miner, you put that on a conveyor belt, you take it to place that you're going to insert that ingredient into, you put an arm and you have it insert in there, and that's the core gameplay loop. You just mine, take it out, put it on the belt, take it off the belt, put it in the thing, and repeat 5 billion times. That's the that's the entire core gameplay loop. But in that, it's so complicated, but it's so simple at the same time, and you have to get that onboarding in there to get that simple stuff. And once you get that simple stuff, once you truly get it, then you can really start going on to the advanced stuff. Because the advanced stuff is nothing but the simple stuff, just advanced. That's but it's you take 2 conveyor belts, you butt them in, and then you have one going straight down the center. So this way, this conveyor belt is loading onto this half of this one in the middle conveyor belt, and this conveyor belt is loading onto the other one. So you're going to now get 2 things on that one conveyor belt, one on one side, one on the other side, rather than being mixed, or they're 2 separate belts, and you can get more stuff on, more variety of stuff in there to your machines with less belts. And that is especially important when you're talking about the research potions, because you need 6 or 7 of those, to by the end of the game, and there's only room for 4 belts at max.
Yep.
And that's again, assuming that you don't need fuel for it.
Yeah. And again, for something like with Factorio, they did eventually put in a tutorial. Like the original version of Factorio, there was no tutorial, but they have added in that little mini campaign. And the whole idea is, again, to get somebody acclimated to what makes this game unique. Because if you go into Factorio completely blind, yes, there are going to be people who will figure that out. There were a lot of people who did. But I am very sure there are a whole lot of people who load up Factorio, saw that they had no idea what they were doing, and then they just uninstalled and refunded it.
Yep. And to Elrod's point, I mean, you can go on YouTube and watch a video and, figure out how to play that way. But what happens when there is no YouTube videos? Because, I mean, that is the case for a lot of games. That is pretty much the case for my last game. There are technically YouTube videos out there for it. None that teach you how to play it. Some that just crap all over the game for no reason. Some that, just have no interest in the game because it doesn't have the aesthetics. And there's one person who played all the way through it, and that's really your only source there. And he didn't explain anything about how anything worked, or taught anything, or even taught like strategies or any kind of thing. He just played it, enjoyed the story, and posted the videos. That's all he did. And maybe somebody could learn from that. But I mean, the fact is if my onboarding wasn't right, he probably wouldn't have made those videos to begin with.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't have stuck with it. He probably wouldn't have made the first video. He would have probably played it for 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't know, and then quit. And never made a video on it, never done anything, and then there would have been no videos that you could learn from.
And a golden rule is that you should not be relying on your consumer base to fix your issues with your game.
Mm-hmm.
And and again, there are developers who have done that, who instead of doing a tutorial, they'll just say, here, link to this guy playing our game. Or here, don't play the game to learn it. Watch a 30-minute video, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, I know. To originally, I remember buying. This was at the beginning of my Steam days. I bought both Ark and 7 Days to Die at the same time. I got a little bit into Ark, and I was like, nope, refund. And I got into 7 Days, and I just died horribly. Constantly. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I was about to refund it, and then I went and I just discovered Twitch. And went on there and, met some people streaming it and figured some things out. And the only reason why I did that was because I was really into the idea of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, really heavily committed to the idea of the game, and that's the only reason why I looked it up.
Okay.
And had I looked it up and I not learned and seen some really cool stuff in a very short period of time on that one stream that I went to, I would have refunded it.
Yeah.
And I have about 2,000 hours into that game right now, and it was so close to getting refunded. And had I not, had it been another streamer that I picked, I would have probably refunded it.
Yeah.
Had it been pretty much any other streamer. The reason why that streamer really sold me on it is because he really knew what he was doing. He was really good at teaching what he was doing.
You mean he onboarded you?
Yeah, and the other streamers that were streaming it were not onboarding, and they were not teaching, and they were not, doing much of anything. They were just, having fun. Most of them were just talking to their friends more than they were playing the game. And had I clicked on one of them, I would have refunded 7 Days to Die. Yeah. And because I clicked on the one I did, I got my onboarding, and then I continued on playing. But you can't depend on that one streamer streaming your game, because if you didn't onboard that streamer, there's a chance that streamer will never play to begin with.
Yeah. If, for instance, look at that game Delphic that we played last week when we had the developer on. The first time I played that, it was a horrible experience because I didn't know what I was doing, and the game's onboarding wasn't there. And it had that same issue that we described. The tutorial just teaches you the controls. It doesn't teach you about the gameplay loop. And it took having literally the developer on stream walking me through the practices and approach of playing the game before I enjoyed it. But there's a very obvious problem there. You can't you can't rely on having the developer on call at all times of the day to answer your questions.
And the best way to, I think, get onboarding into your game is have people that never played your game, don't know the genre, play your game, watch them, see where they get stuck, and then put something in there to get them unstuck. And then repeat over and over and over again until basically anybody that you test with, this goes back into testing, does not get stuck. Because like I had, like we were in, kind of the final beta stage. And by the final beta stage, I meant there was like 32 final betas, but we were in the final beta testing kind of thing. And, an issue that kept on arising was in Chromasia, the word of the day, was right after right after you fought the Crimson Knight on the 5th level, and you died and got game over and everything, and it asked you to save, and then it asked you to, and then it pushed you out to the menu kind of thing. People would, like we had many instances of people not saving, going back and grinding, trying to get up to that level, double their level so they could actually beat it instead of go the intended way. And they would, grind up and whatnot. And mind you, that was Tomo that did that. And Tomo knows a lot about games, and he was not playing my game right because I didn't have it designed right there.
Yep.
And then, not just Tomo had an issue there, because I had Tomo as a tester on my game, which I was very fortunate to have. Somebody else, what they would do is they would go in there and fight, and then when they lost, they would just not save, and then they would just go back in and go back to the menu, and then go back in and fight again. And they just did that repeatedly, hoping to one day eventually win it. And then, now that forward-facing games is here, I'll tell you what he did. We had gotten a lot of the onboarding in their place when he had gotten in there. We had fixed a lot of the problems. He had, he would die on the boss. We had to instantly transition into the new game plus and everything. Never taking you out to the menu. We did give you the option to save, but it was just an option. And, went through the, initial story cutscenes again, went to then he got back to the map. And all he had to do was click on that first map location, and it would, take him into the, here's the tutorial for level scaling. Here's how this works. And, go forward. And instead of clicking that, he's like, I don't know what's going on. Exit out of the game. Because we should have had it automatically go into that first map and give that tutorial. Because, that's an issue we had, you still have, because that issue never got fixed because, when he was playing it was at the end of its life, or maybe even after it died. I can't remember, but that's still in there. That's something we'll have to address for the remake. And there's many things I'm going to do. One thing I'm going to do is, I figured that, I like having multiple save files because, you play an RPG, you get into an RPG, and you I want to go back to a certain point. Well, let me load up the save file and everything. Well, with Chromatia, that isn't an issue because, even if you play through it, you can just go back to it at will, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like what we're going to do is implement a auto saving feature and, you know, do like a profile save kind of thing, but allow them to create multiple. We may allow them to create multiple saves that they want to, kind of thing. But we'll do an autosave so that they won't ever lose progress by exiting out. And then when, you know, another thing is I'm going to make the restart more obvious to, hey, this is different than the first time. This is different cutscenes and everything. This is clearly different kind of thing. Like, this is new. What's going on here? And you'll get them intrigued to go forward kind of thing, as well as, you know, getting them into that first map. Like, everything to get them into that first map, get them that last tutorial, the one that we actually did have to, you know, not do seamlessly, you know, the level scaling tutorial, and let them go forward from there. And like, there are definitely onboarding issues with that, and you know, but I think that overall we did onboarding better than most, but it ain't perfect. No game is.
If you look at the original Disgaea, it did a horrible job of onboarding a new player to all those different subsystems. It said, oh, you can ignore them if you want, but in the same breath, you really, if you want to have an easy time playing Disgaea, you better learn how the item world works, you better learn how the whole upgrading and transmitting your character classes work, these kinds of systems. And you have to, again, be mindful of how somebody is learning your game. Because if you're teaching them the wrong lessons, as you said with the Tomo's example, of not doing the reload, I don't think I did either. I just kept reloading my game as well.
No, I think you went through.
Okay. But if somebody doesn't do that, and, you know, if that's an important message or lesson, they completely miss it, you know, somebody's going to say your game sucks. You know, I couldn't beat the first boss of your game. I kept dying and kept booting me out to the exit menu. I can't do this. And and to Splinter's Web, Elniro has the same attention span. That is certainly true. And you, as a developer, you have to be able to take that into consideration. And like we've said, there is no such thing as the perfect intro that's going to work for every game.
And the main thing to get with the attention span is you've got to hook the player. Like, if you don't get the hook in player, you're not extending their attention span. If the player is not hooked by seeing whatever flashy kind of intro you put in, or non-flashy intro, if you give them a bunch of text and that text isn't enough to hook them, then their attention span is, you know, it's like a piece of TNT that's, you know, let the second they start the game. If you didn't if you didn't do a good hook, then that fuse is going to burn in and then blow up, and that'll be the end. Where if you did a good hook kind of thing, what you did was you did the, you know, kind of cartoon movement where you took the fuse and you pulled more out of the TNT, and you pulled it out and stretched it out longer. And, you know, so you get a longer burn time. And then, you know, if you keep on getting the hook, you know, you keep on keeping the player hooked, you'll keep on pulling that fuse out and making it longer and longer until they get to the end of the game and they beat it.
Is easier? Wait, I just want to read this question. Is easier to make a hook for players who know the genre? I think that's a really good question.
I'm trying to think about that. I don't actually know. I mean, it's easier to hook them on the mechanics of the game, but is it easier to hook on the game itself? I don't think so. I mean, like it's easier to hook them on the mechanics. Like, yeah, I like these mechanics. You know, I'm going to enjoy these mechanics. But if they're not, if it's like, yeah, I like these mechanics and everything, but like rest of the game is like, yeah, like I would rather play, the other game that I have with these mechanics. Mm-hmm. They're going to go back and play the other game with the similar mechanics.
Yeah. And I want to talk about Mr. Old's point about the arc and when the gamers are starved for a game. That is the same thing we saw with Dwarf Fortress. That Dwarf Fortress proved to be amazingly successful because nobody else was doing anything along that scope at that time. And one of the reasons why so many Dwarf Fortress likes have failed, one, is because they can't match the depth and complexity of Dwarf Fortress, and two, they try and cut those same corners as Dwarf Fortress. But it runs into that problem of, why should I play your hard-to-play take of an amazingly popular game? Why don't you just play that amazingly popular game?
Exactly, especially when that amazingly popular game is free.
Yep. And like we said, and we've said this many times before, you can't look at past market success and think that's going to work for you. You could end up we use FTL as a perfect example. You could end up somehow making the perfect FTL sequel. This is the game that it's FTL, it's better in every single way. But guess what? Why should I play your exact version of that game that's even priced more than FTL when I still have FTL from the original developers?
Yeah.
And
the addressing what Splendid says about the old saying, the thing is what onboarding does is it's not trying to please all the people. It's trying to get new people that have never played your game.
Yep.
Or new people that have never played your genre of game to become people that play your game.
Yeah.
It's like, think of it this way, like if tactical RPGs, if there's 30,000 players that play tactical RPGs, if you make the best tactical RPG with no onboarding, you're only going to get at maximum 30,000 players.
Yeah.
But if you do good onboarding kind of thing, you can not only get those 30,000 players, but you can also get, potentially a large percentage of all the players on Steam, all the people who have Steam or whatever platform you launch on, because you're now available to them. Doesn't mean you're going to get them, but you're available to them now. And, I didn't get them because I didn't have aesthetics or, a lot of other things. But, there was that potentiality, and that's what I was betting on. Because I was betting on extending the range of the market. Not, closed in to only people who play tactical RPGs, but opening it up to anybody who has an interest in tactical RPGs or anybody who's willing to give it a shot.
And there is a very important distinction to be made that there's a difference, I've said this before, there's a difference between somebody who doesn't like a genre and somebody who doesn't like your take on that genre. And that is an important thing to understand, that there are probably people out there who would love to play a tactical strategy game or a fighting game or a 4X game or anything like that, but the examples that they're running into are so enclosed, so entrenched in terms of their fan base, there's no room for them to get in. We brought up Smash Brothers as an example. One of the reasons why Smash Brothers blew up, not only because of the IP recognition, but the fact that it was a fighting game that didn't have the clutter and baggage of all the other fighting games.
That's the reason why I got into Soul Calibur, because I love Soul Calibur because it was, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just press, it wasn't DDR, where it's like, press these buttons in this order and you'll do this move. It's like, no, that makes sense. In Soul Calibur, it's press forward and slash, and you'll do a front slash. Push up and slash, and you'll do like an uppercut slash. Press down and slash, and you'll do a downward slash. I mean, like, it made sense. Controls made sense, and there was this sense of onboarding and, to it that really got into it. And to address, something Elrod said a little bit ago about the survival nuts loving art. I hate to inform you, but I am one of the survival nuts. Like I paid 2,000 plus hours of 7 Days to Die. I just bought Scrapyard Mechanic. I have, I've played most of the survival games. I was one of the first people to get on Raft. I've talked to the developers of Raft. Before anybody knew who they were. And he was a college student that was about to get overwhelmed because, like, a couple of days later, he was getting overwhelmed with a lot of people, talking to him because of the YouTubers picked it up.
Yeah. And another point I want to bring up is that when we talk about these games, like we said with Smash Brothers, is Smash Brothers the perfect fighting game? No. Definitely not. But it is important to be able to have these games that can act as gateways. One of the reasons why Mario plus Rabbids did so well was that it was very much your entry level into a tactical strategy game. So somebody who never, like, imagine somebody brand new trying to play XCOM 2 for the first time. They are going to be demolished by that game.
Or this guy won.
Yep. And to Elrod's point about playing Desperados, you can play Commandos too. Well, again, the point of that is that those are still differently designed games. It's not just saying, again, we've seen any games who will just say, I want to make FTL 2, or I just want to make a new FTL, and then stop right there. You have to be able to do something new and different, not just repeat what somebody else did.
Yeah, to Elrod's point there, Ark was near the start of that. But the point is I've never gone back because after looking into it, it's like, why would I do that? Because 7 Days is better. Why would I do that? Because Raft is better. Why would I do anything in Ark? Because all these other survival games are better. And it not only not onboarded me, it didn't hook me, despite how much I wanted the whole dinosaur thing. And after looking at it, after understanding, fully the genre, there was nothing there that I wanted besides dinosaurs. And dinosaurs was not enough a selling point to be that on its own.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of really kind of derpy mechanics in there.
And
a lot of bad PvP.
And speaking about Commandos and Desperados, that's another really good example of onboarding. The studio, whatever their name is, who did Shadow Tactics. One of their big things about bringing that kind of tactical, real-time, tactical kind of gameplay back was making it more approachable and improving the onboarding and intro to get people into them. If you remember, we played the remake or the remaster of Commandos 1, and I played 40 minutes of that. I could never get past the tutorial missions. It was so cumbersome, so horrible to play, that it completely, I never wanted to load that game up again. But Shadow Tactics and Desperados ease you in. They do a job of presenting an introduction that gets somebody hooked, and then gets them, and that motivates them to start learning those games.
Yep.
So
and I loved the original Commandos. Like, I loved it. I don't think I actually owned it. I think I just had a demo of it, and I played the hell out of it. Like, I hated it at first, but like after I learned how to play, after I got onboarded and everything, and I understood how to actually do things, and you kill a guy and you bring him in, you bring his body into the weeds and whatnot, and you do that without being seen, and you get these elaborate orders of doing elaborate order of functions kind of thing to the way you do it, and it was so fun, but like it was pretty hard to get into. I almost quit that, but like I stuck with it, and I tell you that older games had a lot more advantage with sticking around than newer games do, because older games back then there wasn't 30 games released on Steam every day.
I didn't have 3,000 games in my room back in 1991.
Yeah, I mean, back then it was like bragging rights to have 10 games. It's like, I got 10 games. Whoa, dude, you have like all the games,
Imagine if I went back in time and told people I had like 4,000 games in my library.
People would freak out. I remember going over to my friend's house, and I was fucking nuts, but he had like, I think it was something like 30 or 40 Genesis games, and my mind was freaking blown. I was like, how in the hell can you own that many games? Like, everybody freaks out about my 10. You got like 30 or 40.
We're really dating ourselves here. We're really dating ourselves with this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
And again,
the point is that we didn't have very many games back then. So we had to force ourselves to play the games and learn the games, because they costed, number one, $60, and number two, we only got very few of them, and it was either play those games or go outside and not play video games.
Yeah.
And so like it was, if you had to onboard yourself, kind of thing. Yeah. Like, there was one game that I would, that I absolutely hated, and I would not onboard myself on it. And it's ironic which one it is. It's Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior, the original Dragon Warrior, because I could not get into that game, and I had received it free from getting a Nintendo subscription. And I thought because of that it was just some cheap, crappy game. And then one of my friends, several like 5, 6, 7 years later, after like I think we're at the end of the Super Nintendo era, asked me to borrow that game. I was like, sure, I don't care, and he borrowed it, and he played the hell out of it. And then one day I went over there and watched him play. I was like, holy shit, this game is good.
Yeah.
And I learned from watching him play. And then after he got done, he gave it back to me, and I went and I played that game like 8 times all the way through and put like 40 hours into it. And, I was like, I love RPGs, That was my very first RPG. Like, my favorite genre now was something I absolutely put in the trash before onboarding. Like I put my favorite genre, the initial one of my favorite genre, in the trash, basically, because I didn't get onboarded.
Yeah. And, and to Splendid's point, I remember games were $80. I mean, I bought a Super Nintendo game where it was like $79 or $89, and yes, who said and to his other point about games being more discoverable, like that is another topic right there. But I do need to get going in the next few minutes, so I guess to wrap things up from my point, again, when it comes to designing an intro, it is typically considered good fashion to save the intro for last, or one of the final things you want to do for your game, because you want to make sure that your intro is indicative of your title. One of the problems we ran into with Besiege was the very fact that the tutorial that they set up for that game, like 3 years ago, is the same exact tutorial that it was at 1.0. And again, with so much work that's been done to that game, you don't want to do that. And I'm sure,
not to mention that initial tutorial was pretty crap to begin with.
Yeah. A tutorial, your intro, your onboarding, these are not one and done aspects of your game. Again, the first 15 to 30 minutes of your game are crucial to keep somebody invested. If you can't keep somebody interested in your game for 15 minutes, how the heck are they going are you going to consider them to play for an hour or 5 hours? And
And
again,
if they don't hit the 2-hour mark, they can refund.
oh
Very
yes,
easy. No questions asked.
there are people who I am sure who have refund within a minute of playing a game. They loaded up, said nope, exit out, and refunded it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Terraria and Minecraft, they were one of the first examples of their respective designs. You cannot rely on past games to do your intro and your onboarding for you.
And they were also in a completely different market.
Yep.
Because when Minecraft came out, Steam didn't exist. And let me tell you a little thing about Steam. Steam kind of changed a lot of things.
No, it didn't.
And
Valve
Terraria,
doesn't have, infinity dollars.
And Terraria, they came out pretty early in Steam's days. I don't know exactly when they came out, but they came out pretty early. I did Starbound. And those are, all like completely different markets. Again, games back then were nowhere near as discardable as they are today because, there was nowhere near as many of them. Games today, they are super, super, super discardable. Like, if you do not, back then, when we had, $60 games and only had 10 of them in, the whole life of the console kind of thing, like a 10-year period, we only had 10 games. That's a game a year. You forced yourself to play most of those games. Even if you had an LGN game, you forced yourself to play through it.
Yep.
All the way through, pretty much. And, the thing is, and then we get into the early days of Steam, there was, hundreds of games, and then thousands of games, and then hundreds of thousands of games. And now we're getting to the point where pretty much everybody has 200 games in their library. Not literally everybody, but you can really get 200 games quite easily just in free-to-play games on Steam. And you can find probably 200 good ones and never spend a red cent on it. But the point is a lot of people are getting 200 plus games in their library. And all free-to-play games do count because every game they have is one game that they can play instead of your game. So if you want them to play your game, you're going to have to be more appealing than every other game in their library. Because when you look through your games in your Steam library, do you say, hey, I'm going to play this game I've never played before? Or do you say, hey, I really love this game and I want to play it right now?
Yeah.
I tell you which one I do. And occasionally, I'm like, well, what have I not played? Because, all these things that I have played to death, I'm not in the mood to play right now. Let me try to find something new. What have I not played in my library? And then I look through them, and usually I don't find anything in there that I haven't played that I want to play right now, so I just go buy some more games and never play those games that I've never played in my library, and they just stay unplayed.
You know what games I haven't played in my library? My entire library at this point.
Pretty much.
Alright, but I think with that, we're going to wrap things up for this week. I think this was a really great conversation. Again, it's something we'll be coming back to, I'm sure, in future pieces.
Yep.
So, of those of you watching, we'll be back later tonight around 9:30 for our normal game streams, and our live shows are Sundays around 4:30 EDT. You can follow me on Twitter at GWBeister, and we have our Patreon and Discord, the link down below. And for you, Shark?
Well, you can find my Discord, Twitter, and YouTube below. Join our Discord this Saturday. We're going to be having our once-a-month dev chats, which should be interesting. I have a ton of stuff to show. And maybe but probably not. But maybe if the stars align, I will have a playable version of Project Triad. But that's only if the stars align. But probably not. But hopefully so. But either way, I'll have so much stuff. I have so many new pieces of art, so many new things. Like there is so much stuff to show. Like I could go on for 10 hours and still not be able to show everything I have. Like there is just so much awesome stuff to show. So, join our Discord, join the Nexus Games Discord and come and participate in the dev chat. It's going to be a very, very interesting one. And it'll be, by the way, on July 4th. Nice. Holiday, so probably nobody's going to show up to probably the best dev chat yet, but, despite all those nobodies, don't miss it.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we're going to wrap things up. So have a great rest of your Sunday, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.